Hate me like you love me. The words escaped Brainark's lips as a broken whisper, meant only for the woman 12 feet behind him, the one in the crimson dress who was walking away while he stood at the altar, holding another woman's hand. Simone didn't stop, didn't turn around. She'd already given him everything, and he'd chosen duty over her. Now, with 300 guests watching and his bride Margaret squeezing his hand with hopeful trust, Brainark finally understood what he'd lost. His jaw clenched. A single tear rolled down his face, catching the golden cathedral light like a confession he could no longer hide. His left hand curled into a white-knuckled fist, the only outlet for the rage and grief tearing him apart from the inside. The priest's voice droned on, "Do you take this woman?" But Brainark's eyes were locked on the cathedral doors where Simone had just disappeared, taking his heart with her. Margaret deserved better than this ghost of a man. Simone deserved better than his cowardice. And Brainark Ashford, billionaire, heir to a crumbling empire, fool, was about to make the choice that would define the rest of his life. The cathedral held its breath. I can't. But wait, we are getting way ahead of ourselves. This story started 3 years earlier, but before we continue, a beautiful shout out to some of our amazing audience who always engage our stories. Sandra Pollock Wallace from USA, Florida, Virgiline Calhoun, and a special one for Amanda Copps, always commenting in details about our story's emotional depths. We always look forward to seeing your comments. Now, let's go back to the beginning. The coffee had spilled across her laptop, across her pristine white blouse, across the presentation she'd spent 3 weeks perfecting. And the man responsible stood there in his $1,000 suit, looking more annoyed than apologetic. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" Simone's voice was ice over fire. Brainark Ashford, though she didn't know his name yet, barely glanced at the disaster he'd created. "Send a bill to my office." He pulled out a business card with the kind of careless arrogance that made her blood boil. "Your office." She looked at the ruined laptop, the stained presentation boards. 3 years of research destroyed because some entitled businessman couldn't watch where he was walking. "I don't want your money. I want you to acknowledge that you just destroyed something that actually matters." That made him pause, made him actually look at her for the first time. And something shifted in his expression. What was it? His voice had lost its edge. A proposal to bring tech education to underserved communities. A program that could change lives. She started gathering the soaked papers, fighting back tears of frustration. "But I'm sure that means nothing to someone like you." "Someone like me." He crouched down, helping her collect the ruined documents, his expensive suit touching the coffee-stained floor without hesitation. "You don't know anything about me." "I know enough. Designer suit, platinum card, that watch costs more than most people make in a year." She snatched a paper from his hand. "You're someone who thinks money fixes everything. It usually does." But there was something in his eyes, something that looked almost like loneliness, except when it doesn't. He stood, held out his hand. "Brainark Ashford, and you're right. I was careless, I wasn't paying attention, and I destroyed something that matters. So let me fix it properly. Not with money, with action." She stared at his outstretched hand with suspicion. "What kind of action?" "I have connections, resources. Let me help you rebuild this proposal and get it in front of people who can actually make it happen." His hand remained steady. "Consider it penance for being exactly the kind of privileged asshole you think I am." Against her better judgment, against every instinct screaming that billionaires only helped themselves, Simone took his hand. "Simone Clark, and if you're lying, I'll make sure everyone knows Brainark Ashford is a man who breaks his promises." His grip was warm, firm, and sent an unexpected jolt through her entire body. "Deal," he said with a smile that was devastating in its sincerity. Neither of them knew that handshake was the beginning of everything and the beginning of the end. 3 months later, Simone's tech education program had secured funding from 5 major companies, including Ashford Industries. The proposal Brainark helped her rebuild was better than the original, sharper, more strategic, impossible to refuse. You didn't have to do this, she said, standing in his office overlooking the Manhattan skyline. The city glittered below them like scattered diamonds. Yes, I did. He handed her a glass of champagne. You were right that day. I was careless, entitled. I needed someone to remind me that not everything valuable comes with a price tag. And now, she took the glass, acutely aware of how close he was standing. Have you learned your lesson? I've learned that some things are priceless. His eyes held hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. And that the most valuable thing I've encountered in years is standing right in front of me. Brainark. She should have stepped back, should have remembered he was a billionaire and she was a nonprofit director from the Bronx, should have remembered they existed in different worlds. But when he cupped her face with surprising gentleness, when his thumb traced her cheekbone like she was something precious, all those shoulds dissolved into irrelevance. Tell me to stop, he whispered, his lips inches from hers. Tell me this is inappropriate, that I'm your donor, that this crosses every professional line we have. It does, she breathed. All of those things. Then why aren't you pulling away? Because for 3 months, beneath the meetings and proposals and professional boundaries, something had been building between them. Something that felt like falling and flying at the same time. Something that terrified her because she'd never felt anything close to this magnitude before. Because I'm an idiot, she whispered. Then we're both idiots. He closed the distance, and when his lips met hers, Simone understood why poets wrote about moments that changed everything. This was hers. The kiss started gentle, a question, a request for permission. But when she answered by threading her fingers through his hair, pulling him closer with a hunger that surprised them both, gentle became desperate. Became the kind of kiss that announced this wasn't casual, wasn't simple, wasn't something either of them would walk away from unscathed. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Brainark rested his forehead against hers. I need you to know something. His voice was rough with emotion. I'm not good at this, at feelings, at letting people in. My father raised me to see relationships as transactions, love as weakness. Then why does this feel like strength? She held his face between her hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. Why does being with you feel like the bravest thing I've ever done? Simone. Her name on his lips sounded like prayer and profanity all at once. I'm going to hurt you. Not intentionally, but I will. My world, my family, my company, the expectations. It destroys beautiful things. Then maybe I'll destroy it first. She kissed him again, softer this time. Maybe we'll build something new from the ruins. He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair, and held on like she was the only solid thing in his crumbling world. Promise me something, he said against her neck. Anything. If I ever become the man you met that day, careless, entitled, blind to what matters, promise you'll remind me, even if it hurts, especially if it hurts. She pulled back enough to look at him, saw the vulnerability he was offering like a gift. I promise. They sealed it with another kiss. There in his glass tower overlooking the city, unaware that promises are easy to make and impossible to keep when the world decides to take everything you love. The next year was the kind of happiness Simone hadn't known existed outside of fairy tales. Brainark was attentive, passionate, completely devoted to her in a way that made her friends shake their heads in disbelief. The billionaire bad boy had fallen, and fallen hard. He showed up at her office with coffee exactly the way she liked it. He attended every fundraiser, every event, every moment that mattered to her. When she worked late, he worked beside her, his billion-dollar company momentarily forgotten as he helped her prepare presentations for underfunded schools in Queens. You're neglecting Ashford Industries, she said one night, 3 months into their relationship, curled up on his penthouse couch. I'm investing in something more important. He kissed her temple. You, Brainark, I'm serious. Your father's going to. My father can handle the company without me micromanaging every decision. He pulled her closer. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing what I want instead of what I should want. And I want you, I want this. She turned in his arms, studied his face in the dim light. What are we doing? Building something real. He tucked a curl behind her ear. Aren't we? Are we? She needed to hear him say it, needed to know this wasn't just a rebellion against his controlled life. Because you know what I am, Brainark. I'm the girl from the projects who worked 3 jobs to get through school. I'm the activist who challenges everything your world represents. I'm everything, he interrupted fiercely. You're everything I didn't know I needed. Everything I was too blind to see before you spilled coffee on my ego and forced me to actually look at the world. I didn't spill the coffee. You did. Semantics. He grinned, then turned serious. I love you, Simone. I know it's fast. I know it's inconvenient. I know my world is going to have opinions, but I love you with a certainty I've never felt about anything in my entire calculated life. Her heart stopped, restarted, began beating a new rhythm entirely. Say it again. I love you. He kissed her forehead. I love you. Her cheek. I love you. Her lips. And I'm going to keep saying it until you believe it. I believe it. Tears blurred her vision. Happy ones, the kind she thought were myths. And I love you too. God help me, I love you too. That night, wrapped in each other, they made promises in the dark. Forever promises. The kind young lovers make when they still believe love conquers all. The kind of promises the world takes pleasure in destroying. The call came on a Tuesday morning, shattering their golden year like glass. My father's dying. Brainark's voice was hollow. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, they're giving him 3 months. Simone was on a plane to Manhattan within the hour, abandoning a conference in Chicago to be by his side. She found him in his penthouse, standing at the window overlooking the city, his shoulders carrying a weight that hadn't been there yesterday. Brainark, she wrapped her arms around him from behind. I'm so sorry. He wants to see me, has something important to discuss about the company's future. He turned in her arms and she saw the boy beneath the billionaire, lost, scared, grieving. Will you come with me? Of course. But when they arrived at the Ashford estate in Connecticut, everything changed. Charles Ashford looked small in his hospital bed, but his eyes held the same steel that had built an empire. He assessed Simone with one sweeping glance, then dismissed her with chilling efficiency. Wait outside, Miss Clark. This is family business. Father, Simone is not family. Charles' voice allowed no argument. And if I have anything to say about it, she never will be. The words hit like a slap. Simone felt Brainark's hand tighten on hers, saw the muscle jump in his jaw. I'll wait in the hall, she said quietly, saving him from having to choose. Not yet. Not like this. But as she closed the door, she heard Charles' voice drift through. We need to discuss your marriage to Margaret Morrison. Her blood turned to ice. Absolutely not. Brainark's voice was steel. I'm not marrying Margaret Morrison or anyone else you've picked out. I'm in love with Simone. Charles Ashford wheezed a laugh that turned into a cough. Love? You think love pays the bills? Keeps a company afloat? The Morrison merger is the only thing that can save Ashford Industries. We're hemorrhaging money, Brainark. Another 6 months and we're done. Then we restructure, cut costs, find investors. I've tried everything. Charles's face was gray, his hands trembling. The Morrison family is willing to inject $500 million into the company, but only with a marriage merger. Their daughter marries you, their money saves our legacy. Your legacy, not mine. It's 4 generations of Ashfords. Charles's fury gave him strength. Your grandfather built this from nothing. Your mother died believing you'd protect it. And you're going to throw it all away for some girl from the Bronx? That girl has more integrity in her little finger than... Then what? Then me? Charles laughed bitterly. I made hard choices so you could live in luxury. I sacrificed so you could have opportunities. And now I'm dying, Brainark. Dying. And I'm asking you, begging you, to do this one thing. Save our company. Marry Margaret. Give me peace before I'm gone. By destroying the woman I love? By growing up. Charles's eyes were hard. Love is a luxury we can't afford. Margaret is a good woman. You'll learn to respect her, maybe even care for her. And 3,000 employees will keep their jobs. Your mother's memory will be honored. The Ashford name will survive. And Simone? We'll move on. She's young, resilient. She'll find someone from her world. Brainark stood abruptly, the chair scraping harshly against the floor. I'm not doing this. Then watch everything collapse. Charles's voice was ice. Watch 3,000 families lose their income. Watch your mother's legacy crumble. Watch her charity, the one Simone runs programs through, lose its biggest donor and shut down. That stopped Brainark cold. You wouldn't. I'm a dying man with nothing to lose. Charles's smile was cruel. But you have everything to lose. The question is, what matters more? Your happiness with one woman or the livelihood of thousands? That's not fair. Life isn't fair. It's strategic. Charles leaned back, exhausted by the confrontation. You have until my next treatment cycle to decide. 3 weeks. Marry Margaret Morrison and save everything. Or follow your heart and watch it all burn. Brainark walked out of that room a different man. And when Simone saw his face, she knew their fairy tale was over. He wants me to marry someone else. They were back in his penthouse, the city lights mocking them with their indifferent beauty. Simone stood by the window where they'd shared so many happy moments, trying to process words that didn't make sense. What? Margaret Morrison. Her family can save the company with a merger marriage. Brainark's voice was dead. If I don't marry her, Ashford Industries collapses. 3,000 people lose their jobs. Your programs lose their funding. My programs? Simone turned, fury igniting. Don't you dare put this on me. Don't make me the reason you abandon what we have. That's not what I'm... Then what are you saying, Brainark? Say it clearly. He met her eyes, and she saw the decision he'd already made written in his devastated expression. I'm saying I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. Her voice cracked. You're just choosing duty over us. It's 3,000 families, Simone. It's my mother's legacy. It's everything my father built. It's an excuse. She was crying now, angry tears that burned. You're scared of choosing something that isn't safe and calculated, scared of disappointing Daddy even though he's manipulating you, scared of actually being happy. That's not fair. None of this is fair. She grabbed his jacket, shook him. We were supposed to be building something real. You said you loved me. You said, I do love you. He caught her hands, his own eyes wet. God, Simone, I love you so much it's destroying me. But I can't be selfish. I can't choose my happiness over thousands of lives. So you choose hers. Simone pulled away, wrapped her arms around herself. You choose Margaret Morrison, a woman you don't love, to save a company that's already failing. To give it a chance. To honor my father's dying wish. To do the responsible thing. The responsible thing, she laughed, hollow and broken. And what about responsibility to me, to us, to the promises we made? I'm breaking those promises. His voice was anguish incarnate. I'm breaking them and it's killing me, but I'm doing it anyway because sometimes love isn't enough. Then you're a coward. She grabbed her purse, heading for the door. You're exactly the man I met that first day. Careless with what matters, blind to anything that doesn't fit your calculated world. Simone, wait! She turned at the door, and the look she gave him was pure devastation mixed with fury. You want to know the worst part? I would have fought for you, against your father, against the company, against the whole damn world, but you're not willing to fight for me. She wiped her tears angrily. So here's what's going to happen, Brainark. You're going to marry Margaret Morrison. You're going to save your precious company, and you're going to live the rest of your life knowing you had something real and you threw it away for something that was already dying. Please don't leave like this. How should I leave? Gracefully? Grateful for the time we had? She laughed bitterly. No, you want to break my heart? You get to see it shatter. You want to choose duty? You get to feel the cost. She opened the door, then paused. You asked me once to remind you if you ever became careless and blind. Consider this your reminder. You're that man again, and I'm done trying to save you from yourself. Simone, hate me, brain arc. Her voice was ice over agony. Hate me like you loved me, because that's the only way either of us survives what comes next. She left, and Brainark Ashford stood alone in his glass tower, surrounded by everything money could buy, holding nothing that mattered. 3 months later, the engagement announcement made headlines. Ashford, heir to Mary Morrison Heiress, in merger of century. Simone saw it on every news site, every social media feed, every reminder that the man she loved was publicly choosing someone else. She threw herself into work, expanding programs, helping more kids, proving she didn't need Brainark Ashford or his money to make a difference. But late at night, alone in her apartment, she broke. Meanwhile, Brainark went through the motions of his engagement like a man walking to his execution. Margaret was kind, intelligent, gracious, everything a business wife should be. She didn't demand love. She understood this was strategic, which somehow made it worse. You're in love with someone else, Margaret said one evening over dinner, 3 weeks before the wedding. Brainark didn't deny it. I'm sorry. Don't be. She sipped her wine calmly. I agreed to this, knowing it was business. I'm not expecting passion, but I do expect respect and fidelity once we're married. You deserve better than this. Probably, she smiled sadly. But we don't always get what we deserve. We get what we're willing to accept. Why are you accepting this? Because my father needs this merger as much as yours did. She set down her glass. And because sometimes duty matters more than happiness. You understand that, don't you? It's why you're here instead of with her. He understood. God help him, he understood. But understanding didn't make the wedding invitations hurt less. Didn't make the taste of ashes go away. Didn't stop him from reaching for his phone every night, pulling up Simone's contact, his finger hovering over the call button before he forced himself to put it down. She'd blocked his number after the first week of him trying to explain, to apologize, to somehow make her understand why he was doing this. His father died 2 weeks before the wedding, taking his last breath with a satisfied smile, secure in the knowledge that his legacy would survive. Brainark didn't cry at the funeral, hadn't cried since the night Simone left. He'd become exactly what his father always wanted, a man who put duty before everything else. A man slowly dying inside while the world applauded his responsibility. The night before the wedding, he stood in his penthouse one last time before moving into the estate he'd share with Margaret. He poured a glass of whiskey and pulled out his phone, unblocked his number on her phone using a method she didn't know he had, and sent one message. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to choose you. I'm sorry I became the man you warned me not to be. I'm sorry for everything except loving you, that I'll never regret. Tomorrow I marry her. But know this, every day for the rest of my life, I wish I'd been brave enough to marry you instead. B. He didn't expect a response, but at 2 a.m. his phone buzzed. I'll be there tomorrow, not to stop you. I won't give you that out, but because I need to see you make this choice. I need to watch you choose wrong so I can finally let you go. Hate me like you love me, Brainark. That's all we have left. S. He read that message 100 times before dawn and realized she was going to be there at his wedding, watching him marry someone else. The thought should have brought relief, one last chance to see her. Instead, it brought terror, because Brainark Ashford finally understood what he was about to do and knew he'd never forgive himself for it, which brought them here, to this moment, to Brainark standing at the altar, his bride beside him, the woman he loved walking away behind him, To the priest asking, "Do you take this woman?" To the choice he'd already made being exposed as the catastrophic mistake it was. "I can't." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Brainark turned fully away from the altar, away from Margaret's shocked face, and locked eyes with Simone frozen by the cathedral doors. The tears streaming down her face caught the golden light, and in that moment, he knew with absolute certainty, that walking away from her had been the worst mistake of his life. "I can't marry you, Margaret," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry. You deserve someone who loves you completely, and I—" "How dare you?" The voice boomed through the cathedral like thunder. Richard Morrison, Margaret's father, business titan, and the man who held Ashford Industries' future in his hands, rose from his seat in the front pew, his face purple with rage. "How dare you humiliate my daughter in front of 300 people?" Richard stormed toward the altar, his security detail moving with him. "You made an agreement, a binding contract. A marriage isn't a contract. Everything is a contract." Richard's fury was volcanic. "You think you can back out of this merger, embarrass my family, destroy a deal your father died ensuring would happen?" "Mr. Morrison, please," Brainark started. "Security, detain him." Richard's voice was ice. "Breach of contract, fraud, public humiliation causing damages to the Morrison name. We'll sue you for everything you have left, Ashford, and then we'll dismantle what's left of your pathetic company piece by piece." Two security guards grabbed Brainark's arms before he could react. "Dad, stop!" Margaret's voice cut through the chaos. "This isn't—" "Quiet, Margaret. This man has made a fool of you, of me, of our entire family." Richard turned to the assembled guests, many of whom were business associates and press. "Let everyone witness, Brainark Ashford is a man without honor, without integrity. And by tomorrow morning, he'll be a man without a company." "No!" Simone's voice rang out from the back of the cathedral, every head turned toward her. She walked down the aisle, shoulders back, head high, every inch the woman Brainark had fallen in love with, and stopped directly in front of Richard Morrison. "This isn't his fault," she said clearly. "It's mine." "And who are you?" Richard's disdain was palpable. "Simone Clark, the woman he loves." She turned to look at Brainark, and he saw everything in her eyes: pain, forgiveness, fierce protection. The woman who's been watching him die slowly for 3 months trying to do the right thing. The woman who told him just this morning to hate me like he loved me, because that's the only way either of us could survive. "Simone, don't—" Brainark tried to pull away from the guards, but their grip tightened. She ignored him, focused entirely on Richard Morrison. "Your daughter deserves better than a man whose heart belongs to someone else. She deserves to be chosen first, loved completely, honored fully. And Brainark couldn't give her that. Not because he's a bad man, but because he gave his heart to me a year ago and never got it back." "So you admit you're the reason for this disaster?" Richard sneered. "Yes." Simone lifted her chin. "I'm the reason, which means your lawsuit should be against me, not him. Sue me for everything I have, which isn't much, but you're welcome to it. Destroy my reputation, drag my name through every paper, but let him go." "Simone, no!" Brainark's voice broke. "You're offering yourself as a scapegoat?" Richard studied her with calculating eyes. "Interesting, but useless. You have nothing I want. He does." "Then take it." Simone's voice was steel. "Take the company, take his fortune, take everything material, but don't put him in jail for the crime of being honest about his heart." The cathedral was silent, 300 people holding their breath. And then Margaret spoke. "She's lying." Every eye turned to the bride, still standing at the altar in her white dress, veil pushed back. "Margaret," Simone started, "she's lying to protect him, but the truth is far simpler." Margaret walked down from the altar with surprising grace, stopping beside her father. "The truth is that I told him to do this." "What?" Richard's face went from purple to white. I'm in love with someone else, Dad. Margaret's voice was calm, steady, final. Have been for 2 years. But you and Charles Ashford were so determined to merge our companies that you arranged this marriage without ever asking what I wanted. Margaret, what are you saying? I'm saying I asked Brainark to call off the wedding. She looked at him, and for the first time, he saw genuine emotion on her face. Relief. I asked him to be the bad guy, so I wouldn't have to disappoint you. So I could preserve the relationship with you and Mom without being the one to destroy your business deal. That's not true, Brainark said immediately. Margaret, you don't have to. But it is true. She met his eyes, and he saw the plea there. Let me do this. I told you about James, the man I've been secretly seeing for 2 years. I told you I couldn't marry you because I loved him. And you agreed to take the blame because you're a good man who was trying to protect me. The lie was so smooth, so complete, that even Brainark almost believed it. Richard Morrison looked between his daughter and Brainark, his rage transforming into something more complex: hurt, confusion, betrayal. Margaret, is this true? Yes. She took her father's hand. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I'm sorry I let it get this far. But I was scared of disappointing you, of losing you, of being the reason the Morrison-Ashford merger failed. So you let this man take the fall? I asked him to, and he agreed, because despite what you think, he is a man of honor. She turned to the assembled crowd. Brainark Ashford is not a villain. He's someone who tried to do right by everyone: his father, me, the company, the woman he loves, and got crushed under the weight of impossible expectations. The cathedral was silent for a long moment. Then Richard Morrison released a long breath and waved his hand at the security guards. Let him go. They released Brainark immediately. He stumbled forward, caught by Simone's steadying hands. Richard turned to face the crowd, his voice carrying the weight of a man who just had his worldview shattered. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the scene. It appears there's been a miscommunication. The wedding is canceled, but there will be no lawsuit, no charges. The Morrison family asked for privacy during this difficult time. He turned back to Margaret, his eyes searching her face. We'll talk. At home. I know, Dad. She squeezed his hand. I'm ready. Richard nodded, then did something unexpected. He extended his hand to Brainark. I misjudged you. I'm sorry. Brainark, still reeling, took the offered hand. Sir, My daughter is right. You tried to carry too much on your shoulders alone. Richard's grip was firm. The merger may be off, but the Morrison family doesn't abandon people who showed loyalty to our daughter. If Ashford Industries needs help restructuring, call my office on Monday. Thank you. Richard nodded curtly, then guided Margaret toward the side exit, leaving Brainark standing in the center of the cathedral aisle with Simone beside him and 300 witnesses to the strangest wedding that never was. The cathedral emptied slowly, guests whispering and gaping, journalists frantically typing on phones, but Brainark couldn't focus on any of it. He turned to Simone, his hand shaking as he reached for her. You were willing to take the blame for this, for me. Of course I was. Her voice was fierce. You were willing to sacrifice everything for duty. Someone needed to sacrifice something for love. I don't deserve you. Probably not. She smiled through her tears. But you're stuck with me anyway. He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair, and finally let himself breathe. I love you, he whispered against her neck. I love you, and I'm sorry I ever made you doubt it. I'm sorry I chose fear over us. I'm sorry. Stop. She pulled back, cupped his face in her hands. Stop apologizing and start living. We've wasted 3 months on regret. I don't want to waste another second. He kissed her then, in the center of the cathedral, in front of the remaining guests, with no hesitation and no shame. Kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning, like she was home and he'd been lost, like she was everything that mattered in a world that suddenly made sense again. When they broke apart, both breathless, Brainark rested his forehead against hers. What do we do now? We figure it out. Together. She laced her fingers through his. But first, you need to talk to Margaret. I know. Margaret was waiting in a small room off the cathedral's main hall, still in her wedding dress, looking surprisingly peaceful for a woman whose wedding had just imploded. Margaret! Brainark entered alone at her request. I don't even know where to start. Start with the truth. She gestured for him to sit. Did you know I was lying out there? Yes, but you were going to let me do it anyway. You saved me, both of us. I wasn't going to stop you. She smiled, a real smile, the first he'd ever seen from her. You know why I did it? To protect yourself from your father's wrath? No. She stood, walked to the window overlooking the cathedral grounds. I did it because I love you. Brainark's heart sank. Margaret. Not like that. Not romantically. She turned to face him. I love you the way you love someone who showed you what integrity looks like. Who tried so hard to do right by everyone that he nearly destroyed himself. Who stood at that altar loving someone else but still trying to honor his promises. That's not love, that's foolishness. Maybe both. She smiled sadly. The truth is, I was falling in love with you. These 3 months watching you try so hard to make this work, seeing your honor and kindness even when your heart was breaking, I started to hope maybe this could become real. Margaret, I'm sorry. Don't be. Because I realized something today standing at that altar watching you look at her. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. I deserve someone who looks at me the way you look at Simone. And you deserve to be with the woman you can't live without. Neither of us deserves a marriage built on duty and resignation. You lied to your father, risked his anger, risked everything. Why? Because not having you shouldn't be the same as destroying you. She walked over, took his hands. I love you enough to let you go. Love you enough to want you to be happy, even if it's not with me. That's what love is, isn't it? Wanting someone's happiness more than your own? Brainark's throat tightened. You're an extraordinary woman, Margaret Morrison. I know, she laughed, brushing away a tear. And someday, someone's going to see that and choose me first. Until then, I'm choosing myself, my own happiness, my own truth. Your father will be furious. Then he'll understand. Then he'll probably respect me more for finally standing up to him. She squeezed his hands. Go, Brainark. Go build the life you actually want. And don't waste any more time on regret. He pulled her into a hug, grateful, relieved, humbled. Thank you for everything. Thank you for showing me what it looks like when someone loves completely, even if it wasn't me. She pulled back, straightened her veil with a wry smile. Now get out of here before I change my mind and tell my father the truth. He left her there, still in her wedding dress, standing taller than he'd ever seen her. 1 week later, Richard Morrison made good on his promise. He not only invested in Ashford Industries, but became Brainark's mentor in restructuring the company. The process was brutal, cutting costs, eliminating redundancies, pivoting to sustainable business models. But for the first time, Brainark was building something he believed in rather than maintaining something he'd inherited. 2 weeks after that, Margaret announced her engagement to James Chin, her longtime secret boyfriend. The business press had a field day, but the couple seemed radiantly happy. And Brainark? He stood in Simone's apartment, the same small space she'd lived in when they met, helping her pack boxes. You're sure about this? Simone asked for the 100th time. Moving in together after everything? I'm sure about you. Everything else is just logistics. He sealed another box, marked it, books, handled with care. Besides, my penthouse is sold. I need somewhere to live. You could get another penthouse. Or I could wake up next to you every morning in this cramped apartment with terrible water pressure and walls so thin we can hear Mrs. Chin's game shows. He pulled her close. Guess which option I prefer? The one where you're slumming it with the girl from the Bronx? The one where I'm home. He kissed her softly. You're my home, Simone. Everything else is just a building. She melted into him, and for a moment they just stood there surrounded by half-packed boxes and a life they were building together. I love you, she whispered against his chest. I love you too. And this time, I'm never choosing anything over us. Not duty, not expectations, not fear. Just us. Promise. I promise. No more running, no more choosing wrong. Just you and me figuring it out together. She pulled back, eyes shining with happy tears. You know what the crazy thing is? What? I think all of this. The pain, the separation, the almost wedding. I think it made us stronger, made us sure. You think we needed to almost lose each other to know what we had? Maybe, she smiled. Or maybe we just needed to learn that love isn't about grand gestures and fairy tales. It's about choosing each other when it's hard, when it costs something, when the world says you're making the wrong choice. Then I choose right. He lifted her hand, kissed her knuckles. Today, tomorrow, every day after. I choose you. Even when I'm annoying, especially then. Even when I make you attend boring nonprofit fundraisers. I'll wear a tuxedo and smile for the donors. Even when... He silenced her with a kiss, deep and sure and full of promise. When they broke apart, both smiling, Simone rested her head on his chest. We're going to be okay, aren't we? Better than okay. He held her close. We're going to be extraordinary. 1 year later, the small community center in the Bronx was packed with students, parents, and donors celebrating the expansion of Simone's tech education program. Ashford Industries, now restructured and thriving under Brainark's leadership, was the primary sponsor. Brainark stood at the back of the room, watching Simone speak with the same passion that had captivated him in that coffee shop 2 years ago. She glowed with purpose, with joy, with the kind of fulfillment that came from making a real difference. She's remarkable, isn't she? He turned to find Margaret standing beside him, holding hands with James, both of them smiling. She is, Brainark agreed. But you didn't come all this way just to tell me what I already know. Margaret laughed. No, I came to show you this. She held out her left hand, where an engagement ring sparkled. We're getting married, for real this time, and we wanted you and Simone there. Margaret, Brainark felt his throat tighten. I'd be honored. Good, because you taught me something important. She squeezed James's hand. You taught me that it's okay to choose love, to disappoint people in pursuit of happiness, to believe that the right person is worth any sacrifice. You taught me the same thing, he smiled. You showed me what it means to love someone enough to let them go. That's a gift I'll never forget. We're both better for the disasters we survived, aren't we? Infinitely. James cleared his throat. I should probably thank you, too, for being too in love with someone else to marry my girlfriend. Brainark laughed. Happy to help. They talked for a few more minutes before Margaret and James moved off to mingle. Brainark turned back to watch Simone, who'd finished her speech and was now surrounded by excited students showing her their projects. His phone buzzed with an email from Richard Morrison. Board meeting next week. Quarterly profits up 23%. Your father would be proud. I know I am. He smiled, pocketed the phone, and made his way through the crowd to Simone's side. She lit up when she saw him, excused herself from the students, and pulled him aside. Hey, you. Ready to go home? Home. He savored the word. Yeah, but first... He dropped to one knee. The room went silent. Simone's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes going wide. Brainark, what are you... I know it's cliché. I know it's public. I know you hate being the center of attention. He pulled out a simple ring. No massive diamond, just an elegant band with a single stone that caught the light. But I need everyone here to witness this. Need them to know that Simone Clark, you are the best choice I ever made, the bravest thing I ever did, the one thing in my life I got absolutely perfectly right. Tears streamed down her face. You're really doing this? I'm really doing this. He took her hand. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life choosing you, loving you, building something real with you? Yes. She pulled him to his feet, kissed him in front of everyone. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. The room erupted in applause. And as Brainark held Simone close, slipping the ring onto her finger while she laughed and cried and kissed him again, he finally understood what his father had never learned. Some legacies are built with money and power. The best ones are built with love.